Hello everyone, good evening. As always, it is good to see you. Do you remember what you were doing when you were 19 years old? Yogendra Singh Yadav had taken 15 bullets for his country in Kargil and lived to tell the tale. Do you remember what you were doing when you were 24 years old? Captain Vikram Batra had earned the love of his country and the respect of his enemy as he outwitted and outfought them in Kargil. He didn't live to tell the tale. Subedar Yogendra Singh Yadav and Captain Vikram Batra were both awarded the Paramveer Chakra, the highest wartime gallantry award in India. But there were others as well, 527 of them who fought like lions and died like heroes. Men who a grateful country remembers every year today on the 26th of July, the day that India declared victory in the icy heights of Ladakh after over 60 days of fighting with Pakistan. Today on the show, we are remembering the heroes and battles that won us Kargil. The most important battle, perhaps, was Tololing. Here's how it played out. The battle for Tololing, high up in the mountains of Dras, was the longest and most fiercely fought in the summer of 1999. In the beginning of May that year, the Pakistanis had occupied Tololing, that sits atop the crucial Srinagar-Kargil-Leh highway, and caught India by its throat. To clear Tololing became the army's top priority, an uphill battle that took 32 bloody days. 3 battalions from the Naga, Garhwal and Grenadiers tried to make their way up from 2 sides, but made little headway in the face of enemy fire from top. Pakistan's Northern Light Infantry, entrenched all across the ridges in fortified bunkers, had effectively stopped the Indian offensive even before it began. And yet, the 18 Grenadiers kept climbing, inch by inch, losing 25 brave men to a mission many were calling suicidal. In the face of mounting casualties, the army recalibrated its strategy, muscled up its artillery firepower by bringing in the Bofors, and inducted the 2 Rajputana rifles into battle. 90 volunteers were picked for the final assault under Colonel Ravindranath. After a fierce night-long, at times hand-to-hand battle, at 4:10 a.m. on June 13, 1999, the tricolour was finally hoisted at Tololing. The battle for Tololing was one of the fiercest and bloodiest fought during the Kargil War. It took more than 4 assaults, 14 days, and the blood of many, many good men to win the Tololing heights. Once Tololing was captured by the Indian forces, the other posts that were occupied by the Pakistanis fell like 9 pins. The victory at Tololing was the turning point of the Kargil War, but the euphoria soon froze as Colonel Ravindranath looked around. 1 officer, 2 JCOs and 7 Jawans lay dead before him. Subedar Surendra Kumar remembers that day clearly. At midnight, incessant firing from Pakistani machine guns had slowed down India's offensive. A reserve platoon led by Major Vivek Gupta attacked from the rear and closed in on the top. In the hand-to-hand battle with intruders, Major Gupta and 6 others were killed.
उनका एक ऑफिसर था जो कि पत्थर के पीछे 8 लेवल लास्ट दम तक वहां लड़ रहा था. उन्होंने क्या साहब को हिट किया और साहब शहीद हो गए.
Every fallen and injured soldier on Tololing had a story to be proud of. Havaldar Yashveer Singh, who lobbed 18 grenades at the enemy. Digendra Kumar, who kept giving cover fire to his team despite being injured and single-handedly killed 48 Pakistani intruders.
Ma'am, I would say Madhya Pradesh is the 2nd state.
The tales of blind courage that surfaced that night on Tololing had a lasting impact on a little boy in Rewa in Madhya Pradesh.
These were the things which motivated us, which inspired us.
Lieutenant Sumit was 5 years old when the war broke out and says it was his inspiration to join the army.
I'm extremely proud of my unit, that They recaptured this feature from the enemies and gave the first victory of the Kargil war to the nation.
By the time the war ended, 26 officers and 527 soldiers had been martyred in the line of duty. One of them, Captain Vikram Batra, who became a legend on the peaks of 4875, but fought his first battle here in the Tololing complex. From Tololing, you can see another feature that was captured by the Pakistanis. That is point 5140. Just for the Indian troops to close in on the enemy on these very slopes, we lost 7 brave men. When victory finally came, it was a great morale booster for the Indian Army. The Bofors was deployed down below and was used very effectively. You remember the signal, Ye Dil Mange More? Captain Vikram Batra gave that signal from right on top there. Captain Vikram Batra, the Sher Shah of Kargil, all of 24. In many ways, he had become the face of the Kargil war. Ye Dil Mange More was the Pepsi tagline, but the young soldier from Palampur made it his own, firing up the imagination and josh of an entire army, an entire nation. He made the supreme sacrifice, recapturing point 4875, a peak that is now called Batra Top in his honor. In the winter of 1998-1999, under the leadership of their new army chief, General Pervez Musharraf, the Pakistani army had started sending troops to occupy the heights of Kargil that overlook the strategically important National Highway 1. The highway connecting Srinagar to Leh cuts through Kargil, and the Pakistani plan was to sever this link and cause Indian forces to withdraw from the Siachen Glacier, thus forcing India to negotiate a settlement on the broader Kashmir dispute. On 17th May, the 13 Jammu and Kashmir Rifle was given 72 hours to move to Kargil. On 6th of July, Captain Vikram Batra volunteered to head a party to clear a crucial ledge on point 4875. The climb was almost vertical. It began to snow. The enemy kept firing from the top. To make matters worse, Captain Batra was running a high fever. Yet he and his troops kept climbing through the night. As they closed in on the ledge, the enemy was now eyeball to eyeball. The fight became hand-to-hand. Captain Vikram Batra, all of 24, killed 5 enemy soldiers, and despite being injured, he led from the front, kept the attack on, and did the near impossible.
I was in a kind of hallucination, whether I'm alive, whether I'm dead, I didn't realize. What I could see was, at that point of a time, that is the time Captain Vikram Batra came running towards my post. And my name is, full name is Naveen Anaberu Nagappa. From that Anaberu, he used to call me Anna. The moment he came and said, Anna, tu dharna nahi, main aa gaya hu, I felt a sort of relief. Yes, Batra, Vicky sir, he is here, and then he is going to evacuate me. And I still remember, I started crawling down and he started running up the feature.
On 8th morning, point 4875 was recaptured, but 13 Jammu and Kashmir Rifle lost their Sher Shah.
Batra was a big loss, not only personally for me, for the battalion and for the Indian Army.
Captain Batra was honoured with India's highest gallantry award, the Param Veer Chakra. It is often said that in war, there are no unwounded soldiers, because soldiers who survive always carry the pain of seeing a fellow brother fall in battle. By the time the Kargil war ended, India had lost 527 brave men. Soldiers who came from all across India but bled the same deep red blood of all patriots. It was Captain Vikram Batra's unit, 13 Jammu and Kashmir Rifle, that gave the war one of its defining moments. A moment that would forever define the character of the Indian Army and the moral fibre it is made of. During the battle for point 4875, the unit had lost 17 of its own men. There was grief, there was pride, and there was a decision that needed to be made. What does the unit, the Indian unit, do with the bodies of Pakistani soldiers that they had killed? Here's what they did.
June 9th, 1999. As the war raged on in the heights of Kargil, there came a moment that would forever define the character of the enemy that India was fighting. It was on that day that Pakistan handed over the bodies of Captain Saurabh Kalia and 5 other soldiers to India. They came home wrapped in the tricolour to a grieving nation and family. Captain Kalia was 22. He had been commissioned into the 4 Jat Regiment just 5 months ago. Kargil was his first posting.
There was nothing on the face. It was like this much.
A month after Captain Kalia's mutilated body came home, came a moment that would forever define the character of the Indian Army and the moral fibre it is made of. As the tricolour fluttered proudly atop point 4875 and the troops posed for the customary picture, there was a dilemma that the Indian Army faced. Scattered on the heights were the bodies of Pakistani soldiers that Islamabad simply refused to accept.
It is very clear that Pakistan is fully aware of the identities of these bodies, but they do not wish to acknowledge this fact.
The 11 Pakistani soldiers 13 Jammu and Kashmir rifle had killed were enemies in battle, but in their death, these Pakistanis were fellow soldiers who had been martyred in the line of duty. Their own country had abandoned them, but India could not. The unit decided they deserved a burial worthy of a soldier.
We're carrying out the burial of 7 Pakistani soldiers who have laid down their life in combat here as a mark of respect to the soldiers who have died. These people were the enemy, and just about 2 days back, we were fighting them, and we had lost a lot of comrades. We had lost Vikram Batra, we had lost Ajay Jasrotia, we had lost so many Jawans. So the initial angst was definitely there, but then finally he was dead. The soldier was dead, even though he was the enemy. So a realization was there that we need to give them a decent burial, and the troops also understood after that.
जो एक सम्मान हम अपने सैनिक को देते थे, जो याद देते हैं, वैसे सेम सैनिक सम्मान के साथ उनको वहीं पे दफनाया गया, ताकि उनकी देश को नहीं सही, आर्मी को नहीं सही, लेकिन उनके परिवार वालों को एक संदेश जाए कि कम से कम पाकिस्तान से तो इंडिया अच्छा है.
While these bodies were being lifted, I just saw one of our boy who was lifting the body. He told the other boy, जरा देख के उठाना, संभाल के उठाना. Someone else, he just pointed out कि यार ये तो मर चुका है. So he said, तो क्या हुआ, ये मर गया तो क्या हुआ? ये भी एक सैनिक है, चाहे हमारे दुश्मन का ही सैनिक हो, और अपने देश के लिए शहीद हुआ है. So the way he conveyed it, I think that sums it up all for everyone.
Looking back, Brigadier Bhaskar says the decision of burying 11 enemy soldiers showed the world the difference between India and Pakistan.
13 Jammu and Kashmir rifle was not the only one that distinguished itself in the battle in 1999. The first victory for India during the Kargil war came at the hands of the snow warriors who stood like a mountain to defend India, the Ladakh Scouts.
Chorbatla Pass is an infiltration route in the Batalik sector that Pakistani troops had come to dominate by May 1999. Colonel Sonam Wanchuk, then a company commander, was told that some militant movement had been spotted in the area. He was tasked with the operation of reinforcing BSF troops located there.
there were about 40 boys only, because 60% of the boys, they had already been taken out. They were siphoned off because they were supposed to do certain other tasks.
But things didn't go as planned. On 29th May, Colonel Wanchuk sent one JCO and 4 men up the treacherous mountains to observe the enemy. But the enemy sitting on the top of the ridge at 18,000 feet spotted the Indian soldiers, encircled them and started heavy firing. The men hid behind a rock and radioed Colonel Wanchuk. His men in danger, Colonel Wanchuk, without much planning, rushed in to save his brothers. He had 22 men with him.
I would have taken around 2 hours to reach, the Adam base. I was just short of the Adam base, say by about 500 to 600 meters. Or usi time then enemy, they started firing on me.
But the gods were kind to the mostly Buddhist troops. The clouds came in, giving Colonel Wanchuk and his team natural cover.
By about 12 o'clock, वो बादल आए कुछ वहाँ पे, पूरा post cover हो गया, because the weather actually it was getting bad. तो उसका मौका हम लोगों ने उठाया and we really rushed, and it was actually an ideal condition for silent operations then. Raid के लिए बिल्कुल बढ़िया था. There was a tent which was just pitched below, जहाँ पे हम थे. These people, they went inside the tent. We fired upon those people who were inside the tents. पत्थर उनके ऊपर रोल किया, फिर हमने अपना battle cry, किकी सो लड़ के लो. Everybody, lustily cried that, and the enemy personals absolutely, when we recovered their bodies, dead bodies, they were absolutely crushed.
By the time the battle ended, it was 30 hours. At least 8 Pakistanis were killed, perhaps more. Subedar Major Chering Skobdan was part of Colonel Wanchuk's team. At 45, the oldest then.
हम बहुत धर्म के लोग हैं, हम सच्चे मन के हैं, हम देश के लिए मिटने के लिए तैयार रहते हैं.
Almost 80% of the troops in the Battle of Chorbatla were Buddhists. Honorary Captain Skobdan, till today, firmly believes that the Dalai Lama had something to do with their victory.
यहाँ से जाने से पहले दलाई लामा जी का दर्शन मिला था. उनका आशीर्वाद से हमें जो ना बिल्कुल खरोच तक नहीं हुआ.
By the time Operation Vijay ended, the Ladakh Scouts had entered the realms of military history. They had won 55 gallantry awards, including a Paramveer Chakra for Colonel Sonam Wanchuk. But this honor and adulation had come at a cost. By the time the Kargil war ended, they had lost 31 men. As they say, a soldier fights not because he hates what is in front of them, but because he loves what is behind him. On that note, a quick break. Up next, we are traveling to a border school in Kargil that lost 13 children in 1999. Do stay with us. "22 years ago, as the Kargil war raged on, caught in the crossfire was a small mountain school. 13 children died on campus. 1999 is a year no one in the border villages of Ladakh has forgotten. I'm making my way up the mountains of Kargil to a school that is a bit of an urban legend. A school that was flattened not once, not twice, but thrice in the Indo-Pak conflict, and every time rose from the ashes like a phoenix.
The Kaksar government school was flattened in 1991, 98 and 99 in mortar shelling from across the mountains. Surrounded by Pakistani posts on 3 sides, Kaksar is an easy target. In 1999, 13 children were killed by toxic gases that were released by Pakistani shelling.
मेजर जो प्रोडक्शन है कोल के कंबशन पर ज़्यादा पोल्यूशन
Mukhtar Hussein's sister was one of them. Now a teacher in the school, Mukhtar remembers the day clearly.
बहुत सारे ऐसे मतलब बम थे जो स्कूल के इर्द गिर्द या मतलब हमारे घर या गांव के इर्द गिर्द लग गए। तो उसी दौरान जो केमिकल जो बम से निकल गए उनकी वजह से हमारे जो छोटे छोटे जो बच्चे थे, जो नौनिहाल बच्चे थे, उनके ऊपर बहुत सारा उसका इफेक्ट पड़ा। तो उन्हीं में से मेरी मतलब एक छोटी सिस्टर भी थी मैम, जो मतलब उसी के जद में आ गई।
ये मेरी ज़िंदगी है मैम। I don't want anything.
Sajjad Hussain, another teacher at Kaksar Government School, has similar memories. He recalls the day a bomb landed in his school, killing many of his classmates.
I was in 8th standard in 1999 when this happened. So I was a kid actually. हमें बहुत डर लगता था जब गोलों की आवाज़ सुनते थे। हर जगह लोगों को रोना, सब जो है वहशत में रहते थे कि कब क्या होगा। जब वार की बात होती है तो मुझे सुन के ही बहुत बुरा लगता है कि नहीं होना चाहिए।
Our next stop is Hundurman, the last border village in Kargil. Pakistani posts surround the area. Until 1971, the village was part of Pakistan. Even today, the impact of both the 71 and the 99 wars is clearly visible on every wall in the village. In 1999, the Pakistanis captured the post right above Hundurman. The village had to be abandoned, but instead of moving to safety, the villagers moved to a nearby mountain cave.
This is the cave that became a natural bunker for this village. This is where almost 50 families, that is 150 people, took refuge. Now the entrance looks quite small, but that number of people could fit in because this is a long cave. If you go inside, and we'll try and show you pictures of that, it has a fair amount of space here. But you can imagine if someone was claustrophobic, what they would have gone through in that 1 month or 4 months that they stayed here.
Slowly, ma'am. पहले यहाँ पे बैठता था 99 वार में।
यहाँ पे सोते थे?
हाँ, यहाँ पे सोते थे।
कितने लोग सो जाते थे यहाँ?
तकरीबन यहाँ से वहाँ तक 50, उस साइड में 50, यहाँ पे एडजस्ट। डर की वजह से यहाँ पे छुप रहे हैं ना, इसीलिए।
और घुटन नहीं होती थी?
ना घुटन तो होता था, मगर मजबूरी भी है ना।
Wars are usually seen from a military perspective, narrated through the bravery and martyrdom of soldiers. It is seldom seen through the eyes of children who have spent 4 months hiding in a cave, or porters who risk their lives to carry food, water and ammunition for the Indian Army.
By the end of it, war doesn't determine who is right. It determines who is left. So let's hope, for all our sakes, we don't see another one. Thanks very much for watching.